The great hall of the Galactic Council stretched out like a metal ocean. 847 seats filled the massive space, each one designed for a different alien race. Some seats were tanks of water for the fish-like Aquarians. Others were heated stone slabs for the rock creatures called lithoids. The air itself was mixed to keep everyone alive, though it smelled terrible to most noses. Ambassador Sarah Chen sat in the human section, one of the newest and smallest areas in the whole. Humans had only joined the council 50 years ago. They were still considered babies by most of the other races. The eldest species, the ethereals, had been here for over 10,000 years. They glowed with soft blue light and spoke in whispers that somehow everyone could hear. Sarah watched the debate with growing anger. For 3 months now, the council had been talking about the Zephyrian plague. 3 months of endless speeches while people died. The Zephyrians were a gentle race that looked like tall, thin cats with silver fur. Their homeworld and 2 colony planets were dying from a sickness that spread through the air. The plague killed quickly. It started with fever, then the victim could not breathe, then death in just 2 days. Billions had already died. Billions more would die while the council talked. "We must follow proper procedure," said Ambassador Vexhai of the Crystalline Collective. His body was made of living crystal that sparkled when he spoke. "The Environmental Safety Committee must first study the plague. Then the Medical Review Board must approve any help. Then the Cultural Impact Division must make sure we do not harm Zephyrian society. Only then can we vote." Sarah gripped her chair arms. The human medical ships were ready to go. Earth's best doctors waited for orders. But the rules said no one could act without permission from everyone. All 847 races had to agree. The ethereal ambassador floated above his seat, his voice echoing in everyone's mind. "The young human grows restless. But wisdom comes with age. Small one, we have kept peace a millennia with these protocols. Would you risk galactic war for haste?" Sarah stood up. This was not proper. Junior members were supposed to wait their turn to speak. But she could not wait anymore. "How many died yesterday?" she asked loudly. The whole fell silent. You could hear the hum of the air recyclers. I asked a simple question. How many Zephyrians died yesterday while we sat here talking about committees? The Zephyrian ambassador, a thin creature named Kesai, spoke with a voice like wind through leaves. 43 million. The number hit the hole like a physical blow. Sarah felt sick, but she kept talking. 43 million. And the day before, 39 million. And today, while we debate which committee should form a subcommittee to think about maybe helping, how many more will die? The ancient avian hierarchy ambassador ruffled his golden feathers. His species looked like giant eagles with 4 arms. Young human, you do not understand. We cannot simply rush in. What if human medicine hurts them? What if we cause more problems? What if we change their culture by saving them? Sarah laughed, but it was not a happy sound. Change their culture. They won't have a culture if they are all dead. The ethereal's mental voice pressed into her mind like cold fingers. Your passion is understandable but misguided. In 3,000 years, I have seen many crises. The proper way takes time, but it prevents mistakes. 3,000 years, Sarah repeated. Do you know what humans did 3,000 years ago? We were hitting rocks together to make fire. But even then, when we saw someone hurt, we helped them. We didn't form a committee first. She walked to the center of the hall. This was very much against the rules. Security guards started moving, but Sarah kept talking. I've read the consensus protocol. All 847 races must agree before any action can be taken. One vote against, and nothing happens. Do you know what that means? It means the cruelest among us have more power than the kindest. The hall erupted in angry voices. Some species made clicking sounds. Others roared or whistled. The ethereal's glow grew brighter with anger. Sarah raised her voice over the noise. Right now, there are human doctors with medicine that could help. Our ships are ready. Our people are willing to risk their lives to save strangers. But we can't, because 846 other races need to give permission first. The rules exist for good reason. Click the insect-like hive queen. Her voice came from 100 small mouths. Without order, there's chaos. Without action, there's death, Sarah shot back. And I'm tired of watching it happen. The crystalline ambassador's body flashed with light patterns that meant displeasure. What are you suggesting, human? That we abandon millions of years of progress? That we throw away the system that has kept peace? Sarah took a deep breath. What she was about to say would change everything. Once the words left her mouth, there would be no taking them back. I'm not suggesting anything. I'm stating a fact. Humanity withdraws from this debate. We're done asking for permission to save lives. The silence was complete now. 846 alien races stared at the small human woman in the center of their ancient hall. Our medical ships are already moving towards Zephyr in space. Our doctors are already working on treatments. We're not asking for your approval anymore. We're just going to help them. The ethereal ambassador's glow turned angry red. This is unprecedented. You cannot simply ignore the consensus protocol. Watch us, Sarah said simply. The avian ambassador spread his wings in a threat display. This could mean war. You risk everything. Sarah looked around the great hall at all the alien faces staring at her. Some looked angry, some shocked, some afraid. But when her eyes found the Zephyrian ambassador, she saw something else entirely. Hope. Maybe, she said. But we decided that some things are worth the risk. Saving lives is one of them. She walked back toward the human section, her footsteps echoing in the silent hall. As she reached her seat, she turned back one more time. The plague won't wait for your committees. Neither will we. The hall exploded into chaos as Sarah sat down. But for the first time in months, she felt something other than anger. She felt hope, too, because somewhere in space, human ships were already moving toward the dying worlds. They hadn't asked for permission. They had simply decided that being right was more important than being polite. The age of asking was over. The age of doing had begun. Dr. Marcus Webb pulled his helmet tight as the airlock opened. The smell hit him even through the filters. Death had a smell that was the same across all worlds. Sweet and wrong and heavy in the air. The human medical ship Mercy had arrived at Zephyr Prime 12 hours ago. No permits. No clearances. No approval from anyone except their own conscience. The Zephyrian government had welcomed them with desperate gratitude. Dr. Webb, said the tall cat-like alien beside him. Her name was Sylvana, and she was the head of Zephyrian medicine. Her silver fur was dull with exhaustion. Dark circles showed under her large green eyes. Thank you for coming. We did not think anyone would help. Marcus nodded and followed her through the hospital corridors. Bodies lay everywhere. The Zephyrians had run out of places to put them. Some were covered with white sheets. Others just lay where they had fallen. How long since the plague started? Marcus asked. 4 months on the homeworld. 2 months on the colonies. Sylvana's voice was tired. We tried everything we knew. Nothing worked. The council said they would help, but... She made a gesture that might have been a shrug. But committees take time, Marcus finished. And people don't. They entered a lab where human and Zephyrian scientists worked side by side. This was against 17 different laws. The Non-Interference Treaty said humans could not share technology. The Cultural Purity Act said different species could not work together on biological problems. The Safety Protocol demanded 6 months of testing before any new medicine could be used. Marcus looked at the laws displayed on his tablet and deleted them. All of them. Dr. Patel, he called to a young human woman bent over a microscope. What do we have? Dr. Priya Patel looked up. Her face was excited despite the exhaustion. It's beautiful, in a horrible way. The plague virus changes its shape every few hours. That's why Zephyr medicine can't fight it. Their immune systems can't keep up. But human immune systems are different, added a Zephyrian scientist named Torek. More aggressive, more adaptable. Dr. Patel thinks human antibodies might work. Marcus felt a chill. You want to use human blood to treat them. Modified human antibodies, Priya explained. We take the fighting cells from human blood and change them slightly. Make them work with Zephyrian biology. It's risky, but people are dying now, Marcus said. How risky? Sylvana answered. Without treatment, everyone dies. With treatment, maybe some die from the cure instead of the disease. It is better odds. Marcus thought about the council debates, about committees and subcommittees and review boards, About the ethereal ambassador's cold mental voice talking about wisdom and patience. "Do it," he said. 3 hours later, the first Zephyrian received the modified human antibodies. A young male named Kesoke who was in the final stages of the plague. His breathing was shallow and fast. His silver fur had turned gray. His family stood around his bed, waiting for him to die. Marcus watched the monitors. Heart rate, brain activity, immune response. For 10 minutes, nothing changed. Then the reading started to shift. "His breathing is getting easier," whispered Sylvana. "Temperature is dropping," reported a human nurse. "Immune system is responding," added Toek, staring at his tablet. "The modified antibodies are working." Kesoke opened his eyes. They were clearer than they had been in days. He looked at his family, then at the humans around his bed. "Am I alive?" he asked in a weak voice. His mate touched his face with her paw. "Yes, beloved, the humans saved you." The news spread through the hospital like fire. Within hours, Zephyrians were lining up for the treatment. The human medical teams worked without sleep, producing more modified antibodies, treating more patients. But the news also spread to the Galactic Council. Ambassador Sarah Chen sat in the emergency session, watching 846 angry aliens argue about human crimes. The holographic display showed the Mercy orbiting Zephyr Prime. Other human ships were moving toward the colony worlds. "This is chaos," roared the avian ambassador. His golden feathers stood on end with rage. "Humans ignore all law, all order. They contaminate the Zephyrians with their alien biology." The crystalline ambassador's body flashed angry red patterns. "The probability of galactic war has increased by 37%. Human recklessness threatens everything. They violate the non-interference treaty," clicked the Hive Queen. "They violate the Cultural Purity Act. They violate the safety protocol. They must be stopped." The ethereal ambassador floated higher than usual, his blue glow pulsing with displeasure. "Young races lack wisdom. They see immediate need and ignore long-term consequences. This is why we have rules." Sarah stood up again. She was getting good at breaking protocol. "Long-term consequences," she said. "What long-term consequences are worse than an entire species dying?" "Precedent," answered the ethereal coldly. "If humans can ignore law, others will follow. The consensus protocol will collapse. Order will end." "Good," Sarah said simply. The whole fell silent again. It seemed to happen a lot when humans spoke these days. I said good. Your precious order has spent 3 months debating while billions died. If that's what order looks like, then maybe it's time for chaos. The avian ambassador spread his wings. "You admit you seek to destroy galactic civilization." "No, we seek to save lives. If your civilization can't handle that, maybe it deserves to be destroyed." The Zephyrian ambassador, Kisore, spoke for the first time in session. Her voice was stronger than it had been in months. "The humans have saved 40,000 of my people in the last 6 hours. Their treatment works. My nephew lives because of human medicine and human courage." She looked around the hall. "Where were your treatments? Where was your courage?" "Treatments must be tested," protested the crystalline ambassador. "Safety must be confirmed." "My nephew was dying," Kesare said quietly. Safety was not his concern. Living was. Sarah felt a strange sensation in her chest. Pride, maybe, or hope. On the main display, the number of saved Zephyrians kept climbing. 50,000, 60,000, 70,000. Each number was a person who would have died while the council debated. "The human medical ships will continue their work," Sarah announced. "We will treat every Zephyrian who wants treatment. We will share our medicine freely. We will ask for no payment and no permission." "This means war," warned the avian ambassador. Sarah looked at him calmly. "Then come and stop us. But know this, while you're planning your war, we'll be saving lives. And when history judges us, let it judge us for that." The emergency session dissolved into shouting and threats. But Sarah barely heard them. She was watching the numbers on the display climb higher and higher. Humans had moved first. Now they had to see who would move last. The news traveled faster than any ship could fly. Across a galaxy, On countless worlds and space stations, beings heard the same impossible story. Humans had saved the Zephyrians, without permission, without committees, without waiting. On Kepler 442b, a mining colony at the edge of nowhere, Administrator Vextar read the report 3 times. His people looked like walking trees with bark for skin and leaves for hair. They had worked the deep mines for the Galactic Mining Corporation for 200 years. Then the ore ran out. The corporation left them behind like broken tools. No ships came anymore. No supplies. No medicine. The council said relocating an entire population required a feasibility study that would take 50 years. Vextar's people were dying slowly instead of quickly. Starvation instead of plague. The result was the same. "Sir," said his assistant, a young female named Lilena, "there are ships approaching. Human ships." Vextar looked at the scanner display. 12 cargo vessels dropping out of hyperspace. No permits on file. No authorization codes. Just like the stories said. The lead ship sent a simple message. "We brought food, medicine, and supplies. No payment required. No contracts to sign. We heard you needed help." Vextar stared at the message for a long time. In 200 years of working with the galaxy, no one had ever offered help without wanting something back. "Should we contact the council?" asked Lilena. "Why?" Vextar said finally, "So they can form a committee to study whether we should accept help while our children starve." He opened the communication channel. "Human ships, you are welcome here." 3 systems away, on the drought-stricken world of Aridmos, the insect-like Chitinus watched human atmospheric processes fall from the sky like silver rain. The machines were not big or fancy. Human technology was young and crude compared to the ancient races. But they worked. Engineer Captain Rosa Martinez stood in the red desert, watching her machines pull water from the air itself. The local Chitinus leader, a being called Queen Zixere, clicked her mandibles nervously. The Environmental Review Board must approve this. Zixere clicked. Atmospheric modification requires permits from the Climate Control Council. Rosa wiped sweat from her forehead. The twin suns of Aridmos burned like angry eyes overhead. "How long have your people been dying of thirst?" 17 years since the drought began. "And how long have you been waiting for permits?" Zixare's antennae drooped with shame. 15 years. Rosa gestured at her machines. Already the air felt different. "Cooler, moister. My machines will give you water in 3 days. The council will give you permits in 3 decades. You choose." Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. Human ships appeared at worlds the council had forgotten or ignored. Places too small to matter. Too poor to bribe the right committees. Too desperate to wait for proper procedure. The young races watched and learned. The Zephyrians sent their own ships to help the Kepler miners. The Chitinus shared their drought-resistant crops with other desert worlds. The tree people of Verdant Home offered their atmospheric cleaning technology to polluted planets. For the first time in millennia, beings acted without asking permission first. The ancient races watched in horror. In the crystal holes of the crystalline collective, millions of living crystal beings vibrated with distress. Their leader, Prime Crystal Vexhi, calculated probabilities with desperate speed. Chaos probability now 68%. He announced to his people. Order collapse probability 7 to 4%. The humans have broken the fundamental mathematics of civilization. His aide, a smaller crystal called Subprime Killer A, flashed worried patterns. "What do we do, Prime Crystal?" "We enforce order. We show the galaxy what happens when rules are broken." On the feathered world of Eri Prime, the avian hierarchy's war council gathered in their golden temples. Admiral Talwing, largest of the eagle-like beings, spread his wings in fury. "Humans mock our authority," he screeched. "Lesser races follow their example. Soon none will obey the natural order. The strong must rule, or all falls to chaos." "Send the enforcement fleet," commanded High Lord Zayak, his golden feathers crackling with electricity. "Remind the galaxy who truly has power." But it was the ethereals who struck first. The ancient beings gathered in their floating city above the gas giant Whisper. Their blue glow pulsed in unison as they reached a decision that spanned their collective consciousness. Elder Prime Noxaria spoke for all of them, her mental voice touching every ethereal mind at once. The humans are disease in the galactic body. They spread chaos and disorder. They must be excised before the infection spreads further. Ethereal ships move through space like ghosts. Their technology was so advanced it seemed like magic to younger races. They could appear anywhere without warning. Their weapons could destroy planets. The first target was a human supply convoy heading to the Kepler colony. Captain James Murphy commanded the convoy from the cargo ship Liberation. 12 vessels full of food, medicine, and hope. They dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system and found the ethereals waiting. 50 ethereal warships hung in space like blue stars. Each one could destroy Murphy's entire convoy without effort. The ethereal flagship sent a message that appeared directly in every human mind. Return to Earth space immediately. Abandon this unauthorized mission. This is your only warning. Murphy looked at his scanner display. His 12 cargo ships against 50 warships. His crew of ordinary doctors, engineers, and volunteers against the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Send a reply. Murphy told his communications officer. What should I say, sir? Murphy thought about the reports from Kepler 442b. Families eating tree bark to survive. Children too weak to play. People dying not from war or plague, but from being forgotten. Tell them we're going through. Sir, they'll destroy us. Maybe, but if we turn back now, those people down there will die anyway. At least this way, they'll know someone tried. The message went out on all frequencies. This is Captain Murphy of the Earth Ship Liberation. We're delivering food to hungry people. If that's against your laws, then your laws are wrong. We're going through. The ethereal response came like ice in their minds. So be it. The ancient ships began to move forward, their weapons charging with deadly blue light. But then something unexpected happened. Mars ships dropped out of hyperspace. Zephyrian medical vessels. Chitinous cargo haulers. Even some of the tree people's old mining ships. They formed up around the human convoy. The Zephyrian Admiral Kesven broadcast on all channels. The humans save our people when no one else would. Now we save theirs. Then came more ships. Young races from across the galaxy. Species that had been ignored, forgotten, or told to wait. They came not because they had to, but because they chose to. The ethereal fleet found itself facing not 12 human cargo ships, but 300 vessels from dozens of different worlds. Elder Prime Noxaria's mental voice carried confusion for the first time in centuries. This is impossible. Inferior races do not unite. They do not act without leadership. Captain Murphy smiled as he looked at the allied fleet around him. Maybe we're not as inferior as you thought. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see who would blink first. The standoff lasted 3 hours. 300 allied ships faced 50 ethereal warships in the emptiness between stars. No one moved. No one fired. The galaxy watched through news feeds and military scanners, waiting for the first shot that would change everything. Captain Elena Vasquez arrived with the human fleet just as the tension reached its breaking point. Her flagship, the Defiance, dropped out of hyperspace with 40 human warships behind her. They were not cargo vessels anymore. These were the ships Earth had built for war, though they had never wanted to use them. Elena was not like the gentle doctors and engineers who had started this crisis. She was a soldier, born on Mars colonies where life was hard and choices were simple. She had fought pirates in the asteroid belt and raiders on the outer rim. Her face was scarred from battle, her voice rough from breathing recycled air for 30 years. The ethereal Elder Prime's mental voice pressed into every mind in the area like cold metal. Human war leader, you bring weapons to a humanitarian mission. This proves your true nature. Elena opened a channel to all ships, allied and enemy alike. Her voice carried across space to every being listening. My name is Captain Elena Vasquez. I command the human fleet. I'm here to protect supply ships carrying food to hungry people. If that makes me a war leader, then so be it. The Elder Prime's mental pressure increased, trying to force submission through psychic power. Elena felt like a headache behind her eyes, but she did not bend. You cannot win. Our technology is millions of years beyond yours. Our weapons can destroy your worlds. Surrender now and return to Earth space. We will allow your species to live if you submit to proper order. Elena laughed, and the sound was not pleasant. You know what I learned fighting pirates? The one who talks about how powerful they are usually isn't as strong as they pretend. She gestured at the mixed fleet around her. Zephyrian medical ships with their silver hulls. Chitinous cargo vessels that looked like giant metal bugs. Tree people ships grown rather than built. Dozens of other designs from dozens of worlds. You see weakness because these ships are different. I see strength because they chose to be here. You can force people to obey, but you can't force them to choose. The Crystalline Collective Fleet arrived next, their ships glittering like jewels in the starlight. Admiral Vexhi's voice came through crystalline harmonics. Human fleet, you are in violation of 17 military codes. Surrender immediately or face the consequences. Behind the crystalline ships came the golden vessels of the avian hierarchy, their hulls shaped like giant wings. Admiral Talwing's screech echoed across all frequencies. The natural order will be restored. The strong will rule. The weak will obey. Elena counted the enemy ships. 150 vessels from the three most powerful races in the galaxy. Ancient technology. Weapons that could crack planets. Shields that had never been broken. Her own fleet numbered 240 ships, but most were cargo vessels and medical ships. Only 40 were actual warships, and those were built with technology barely 50 years old. Captain, said a tactical officer, a young man named Rodriguez, they outgun us 10-1. Maybe we should consider negotiating. Elena looked at the tactical display. The numbers were clear. In a straight fight, her fleet would last maybe 10 minutes. Rodriguez, patch me through to all our ships, including the supply vessels. This is a military channel. Not anymore. Open the channel. Elena stood on her bridge, looking out at the stars where three great empires had come to stop them. When she spoke, her voice reached every human ship, every allied vessel, and every enemy warship listening. This is Captain Elena Vasquez speaking to all vessels, human and allied. 3 months ago, Ambassador Chen made a choice. She chose to help people instead of waiting for permission. That choice saved millions of Zephyrian lives. She paused, watching the enemy fleets move into attack formation. Today, those same empires that spent months debating while people died want to stop us from feeding the hungry. They have better ships, better weapons, better technology. They probably have the power to destroy every ship in this fleet. Rodriguez looked at her with confusion. This did not sound like a speech to inspire troops before battle. But here's what they don't understand. When Dr. Webb treated his first Zephyrian patient, he wasn't thinking about military tactics. When our engineers built water processors for the desert worlds, they weren't planning for war. When Captain Murphy said he was going through, he wasn't calculating odds. The Allied ships began moving, forming a protective wall around the supply vessels. They were doing what humans do, what all of us do when we stop asking permission and start doing what's right. We act. We choose. We take responsibility for our choices. The enemy fleets completed their formation, weapons charged with deadly light. The ancient empires think strength comes from having the biggest guns. They think power comes from making others obey. But real strength comes from choosing to do the right thing even when it's hard. Real power comes from inspiring others to make their own choices. Elena gestured at the mixed fleet around her. Ships from dozens of worlds, standing together not because they had to, but because they wanted to. Every ship here chose to be here. Every person aboard chose to risk their life for strangers. That's not weakness. That's the strongest thing in the universe. The Elder Prime's mental voice cut through her speech like a knife. Enough words. Submit or die. Elena smiled, and for the first time, it was a real smile. You still don't get it, do you? You can destroy our ships, but you can't destroy what we started. Every world we've helped, every life we've saved, every species we freed from your endless committees, they remember. She opened a new channel, broadcasting on all frequencies across the entire galaxy. This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the human fleet. We're about to be destroyed by the three great empires for the crime of feeding hungry people. But before we die, I want everyone listening to remember something. The galaxy held its breath. You don't need permission to do the right thing. You don't need committees to help someone in trouble. You don't need anyone's approval to choose kindness over cruelty, action over delay, hope over fear. The enemy weapons reached full charge. If we die today, don't mourn us. Follow our example. Help each other. Choose for yourselves. Make them stop you too, if they can. Elena closed the channel and turned to her crew. All ships, prepare for battle. If this is our last fight, let's make it count. But before the first shot could be fired, something impossible happened. Ships began dropping out of hyperspace. Not dozens, not hundreds, thousands. From every corner of the galaxy they came. Species the Council had ignored. Worlds the empires had forgotten. Young races who had been told to wait their turn for centuries. They came not with warships, but with whatever they had. Cargo haulers, mining ships, medical vessels, research craft. A fleet of the forgotten, united by a simple choice. The choice to stop asking permission and start taking action. The ancient empires found themselves surrounded by the very people they claimed to protect. And for the first time in millennia, they were afraid. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. 10,000 ships from 800 different worlds surrounded the ancient empire's fleet. They came from everywhere. Ice worlds of the galaxy's edge. Desert planets forgotten by time. Asteroid mining colonies that existed on maps only as numbers. Elder Prime Noxaria felt something she had not experienced in 3 million years of existence. Doubt. Her mental voice, always so certain, wavered as she spoke to her fellow ethereals. This is not possible. Lesser beings do not organize. They do not unite without our guidance. The mathematics of control have never failed before. But the evidence floated in space around her. Ships that should have been enemies working together. Races that had never met flying side by side. All because one small species had decided to help instead of waiting for permission. Admiral Talwing of the avian hierarchy spread his golden wings in confusion. They have no formation, no command structure, no proper hierarchy. How can they function? Captain Elena Vasquez heard his broadcast and smiled. She opened the channel to answer him. That's what you don't understand. We don't need someone to tell us what to do. We just need someone to show us it's possible. On his crystal ship, Admiral Vexhai calculated frantically. Numbers flashed through his crystalline mind like lightning. 10,000 ships against 150. But these were not warships. Most carried no weapons stronger than mining lasers or asteroid cutters. We still possess superior firepower, he announced. We can destroy them all. And then what? Asked Captain Elena. You blow up 10,000 ships full of doctors, engineers, farmers, and teachers. You murder millions of beings whose only crime was wanting to help each other. What does that make you? The question hung in space like a challenge. Elder Prime Noxaria tried to project authority through her mental voice. It makes us the guardians of order, the protectors of civilization. Sometimes the strong must make hard choices to preserve peace. Whose peace? Asked a new voice. Ambassador Sarah Chen's diplomatic ship emerged from behind a human destroyer. She had come from the Emergency Council session, where 800 alien governments argued about what to do with a crisis they could no longer control. I've been listening to the debates, Sarah continued. For 6 hours, the Council has argued about how to restore order. Not once did anyone ask if the old order was worth restoring. She gestured at the massive fleet surrounding them. Look around you. This is what the galaxy looks like when people are free to choose for themselves, when they don't have to wait for permission to help each other. The crystalline admiral's voice crackled with harmonic distortion. This is chaos. Without structure, without hierarchy, civilization will collapse. Will it? Sarah asked simply. The Zephyrians are alive because humans chose to help them. The Kepler colonies have food because others chose to share. Dozens of worlds have clean water because engineers chose to build instead of waiting for permits. If that's chaos, I'll take it over your order any day. Elder Prime Noxaria felt the collective ethereal consciousness wavering. For millions of years, they had believed their way was the only way. Order through control, peace through submission. But watching the thousands of ships working together without central command, she began to wonder if they had been wrong. You ask us to abandon everything we have built, she said finally. Millions of years of progress. Millennia of peace. No, said Captain Elena. "We're asking you to build something better. Something where people choose to work together instead of being forced to obey." The standoff continued for another hour. 10,000 ships facing 150 in the space between stars. But no shots were fired. The ancient empire's weapons remained charged but unused. Finally, something broke the deadlock. A small ship detached itself from the ethereal fleet. It was barely larger than a shuttle built for one person. As it moved toward the human fleet, its identity became clear. Sub-Elder Lysandra was young by ethereal standards, only 50,000 years old. She had watched the debates with growing unease. Her mental voice was soft but clear as she spoke. "I have seen enough. The humans are right. We have confused control with leadership, order with justice. I choose to join them." The effect was electric. If an ethereal could abandon the collective consciousness, anything was possible. More ships began to break away. A crystalline science vessel whose crew had grown tired of endless regulations. An avian scout ship whose pilot had friends on one of the worlds the humans had helped. Even some of the ancient warships powered down their weapons and moved toward the Allied fleet. Admiral Towwing's screech of rage echoed across all frequencies. "Traitors! Cowards! You abandoned the natural order." "No," replied the avian pilot who had defected. "We're choosing a better order. One based on what we do, not who we bow to." The great fleet of the Forgotten began to move, not toward battle, but toward their destinations. The supply ships continued toward Kepler 442b. The medical vessels headed for worlds that needed healing. The engineering ships moved toward planets that needed building. The ancient empires found themselves alone in space, watching their perfect order crumble not through force, but through choice. Elder Prime Noxaria made a decision that would have been impossible just days before. She opened her mind to the human thoughts around her, trying to understand what she had missed for so long. What she found was not chaos, but something far more complex and beautiful than the rigid system she had known. She found beings who chose to help not because they were ordered to, but because they wanted to. She found cooperation born of respect rather than fear. "We have been wrong," she announced to her people, her mental voice heavy with the weight of millennia. "We thought wisdom came with age, but perhaps it comes with understanding. These young races have learned something we forgot long ago." "What is that?" asked one of her subcommanders. "That the strongest chains are the ones we choose to wear ourselves." 6 months later, Ambassador Sarah Chen stood before a very different assembly. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council had been rebuilt, but the 847 seats were arranged differently now. Instead of rigid hierarchies based on age and power, species sat in groups based on common interests and shared projects. The consensus protocol was gone, replaced by something humans call the action accords. Any group of worlds could undertake a project together. Others could join freely or choose not to participate. No one needed permission from everyone to help someone. The ancient species had not vanished. Many had adapted to the new reality, finding that cooperation worked better than control. The ethereals used their vast knowledge to teach rather than rule. The crystalline collective calculated probabilities for anyone who asked, instead of hoarding their predictions. Even some of the avian hierarchy had learned that true strength came from lifting others up, not keeping them down. Others had retreated to their homeworlds, bitter and confused by a galaxy that no longer acknowledged their automatic authority. Sarah looked out at the mixed assembly of young and old, powerful and humble, all working together on a project that would have taken centuries to approve under the old system. 6 months ago, she said, humans made a simple choice. We decided to help people who needed help. We didn't ask for permission because we realized that some things are too important to wait for approval. She paused, remembering the long journey from that first moment of rebellion to this new beginning. We didn't seek to lead the galaxy. We just refused to follow when following meant watching others suffer. Sometimes the greatest permission is the one you give yourself, to do what's right, even when others tell you to wait. The assembly erupted in approval, not the polite diplomatic applause of the old council, but genuine enthusiasm from beings who had finally found their own voices. The galaxy moved forward, faster and more chaotically than before, but also more alive with possibility. Humans had moved first, breaking the chains of endless procedure, but they had not moved last. That honor belonged to everyone who chose to follow their example. who decided that helping others was worth more than following rules, who learned that the best way to change the galaxy was not to ask for permission but to simply begin. The age of asking was over. The age of choosing had begun.